In 1987, young jazz trumpeter Marcus Thompson spotted a gleaming golden microphone in a New York antique music store and immediately fell in love with it. When the seller told him the microphone had belonged to Billie Holiday, Marcus thought this would be his career's turning point. But just 3 months after purchasing this microphone, Marcus mysteriously died, shocking the music world. Because this same microphone had been used by exactly 7 different jazz artists since Billie Holiday's death in 1959, and each of their careers had ended tragically. Could the words Lady Day whispered to this microphone during her final concert hold the key to 28 years of deaths? If you want to learn the real story of this cursed microphone, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because this story contains one of music history's darkest secrets. In 1947, the Neumann company produced a special microphone using the most advanced technology of the era. This microphone wasn't just a recording device but also a work of art. With its gold-plated body, handcrafted details, and most importantly, its unique sound quality, it would become legendary in the music world. The microphone's serial number was G1947BH and only 5 units were produced. One from this special series was gifted to Billie Holiday in 1948. The microphone's technical specifications far exceeded the standards of the era. Neumann engineers had developed a special capsule design, adjusting the frequency response to best capture the emotional nuances of the human voice. The gold plating wasn't just aesthetic, it also enhanced sound quality. The microphone weighed exactly 2.3 kilograms, and this weight symbolized its durability and quality. The person who gifted the microphone to Billie was Norman Granz, one of the most powerful record company owners of the time. Granz wanted to further enhance the magic in Lady Day's voice and believed this special microphone would contribute to her career. At the presentation ceremony, Granz told Billie, "This microphone was made especially for your voice." Indeed, the microphone's sound characteristics perfectly matched Billie Holiday's vocal timbre. When Billie Holiday first encountered the microphone, she immediately understood it wasn't just a technical device. The microphone seemed to listen to her voice, trying to understand it. During her first recording session, studio technicians were amazed at how the microphone captured every nuance in Billie's voice. Even the finest vibrations in Lady Day's vibrato were recorded with crystal clarity. From 1948 to 1959, Billie Holiday used this microphone in almost all her concerts and recordings. A special bond had formed between her and the microphone. The most powerful versions of Lady Day's most famous songs like Strange Fruit, God Bless the Child, and What a Little Moonlight Can Do were recorded with this microphone. Studio engineers noticed that Billie couldn't deliver the same performance with other microphones. The golden microphone had become an inseparable part of her voice. However, Billie's relationship with the microphone wasn't just professional. During troubled times, she would talk to the microphone, whispering her most intimate thoughts to it. Studio technician Eddie Wilkins would later say that he sometimes saw Billie talking alone with the microphone between recording sessions. Lady Day didn't just see the microphone as a tool, she accepted it as a friend, a confidant. On the night of July 17, 1959, Billie Holiday gave her final concert at the Apollo Theater. This concert went down in history as one of the most emotional performances in music history. Lady Day was very ill that night, her vocal cords were damaged, but she still took the stage. Throughout the concert, she was caressing her golden microphone with her hands, holding it as if embracing it. When the concert ended, stage workers witnessed a very strange scene. Billie Holiday stood alone at the microphone and was whispering to it. She had brought her lips close to the microphone's head, talking to it at length in a way no one could hear. Stage worker Robert Williams would later say that this moment was very moving, as if Billie was saying goodbye to the microphone. After that night, Billie Holiday was hospitalized and died 10 days later. But even stranger was the mysterious disappearance of the golden microphone from the Apollo Theater. Security guards remembered the microphone being left backstage, but the next morning the microphone was gone. Apollo Theater management reported the theft to police, but the microphone was never found. A year after the microphone's disappearance, young singer Sarah Williams took the stage at Blue Moon, one of Harlem's small jazz clubs. Sarah announced that night that she would be singing with a very special microphone. When she brought the microphone to the stage, a whisper spread through the audience. This was Billie Holiday's microphone. The older jazz enthusiasts in the room immediately recognized the microphone's authenticity. The golden plating's shimmer, handcrafted details, and most importantly, the G1947BH serial number were visible. How Sarah Williams obtained the microphone was never fully understood. Some said she bought it from an antique shop. Others said she received it as a gift from an old musician friend. Sarah herself gave contradictory explanations about this. Sometimes she said the microphone was left to her as an inheritance, sometimes she said she found it. This inconsistency worried her friends, but Sarah preferred to change the subject. However, what was certain was that the microphone magically enhanced Sarah's voice. Her performances at Blue Moon became legendary, and major record companies began to discover her. When Sarah's voice merged with the microphone, the resulting music seemed as if Billie Holiday's spirit was guiding her young voice. Sound technicians were amazed at the sudden change in Sarah's vocal performance. Previously a talented but ordinary singer, she had transformed into a completely different artist with the microphone. But Sarah Williams' rise lasted only 6 months. During these 6 months there were serious changes in Sarah's behavior. Her friends noticed that she was becoming increasingly withdrawn, avoiding social activities. Sarah was constantly reading Billie Holiday biographies, listening to her old recordings, and even trying to dress like her. Strangest of all was that Sarah was having private conversations with the microphone. Mary Johnson, a waitress working at Blue Moon, said she saw Sarah talking alone with the microphone backstage several times. Sarah was addressing the microphone as if it were alive, asking it questions and waiting for answers. When Mary reported this to the club owner, Sarah said this behavior was just performance practice. However, Mary noticed that Sarah used a different tone when talking to the microphone. In March 1961, Sarah was found dead in her home. The cause of death was declared a heart attack, but Sarah was only 28 years old and had no previous heart problems. The doctor's report showed that Sarah's heart had suddenly stopped with no signs of any illness. This made police suspicious, but autopsy results showed no clear cause of death. Even stranger was that Sarah's behavior had changed in the final weeks before her death. Her friends noted that she constantly sang Billie Holiday songs, becoming particularly obsessed with Strange Fruit. Sarah's neighbor, Mrs. Dorothy Peterson, said she heard 2 different female voices coming from Sarah's house at night during her final days. It was as if Sarah was duetting with someone. Peterson had reported this to police, but they thought Sarah was listening to records. After Sarah's death, the golden microphone mysteriously disappeared again. When police searched Sarah's house, they couldn't find the microphone. The only clue in the house was a notebook found in Sarah's bedroom. On the last page of the notebook was written, "Lady Day is calling me." This note was written in Sarah's handwriting, but the writing style was very different from normal, shaky and disorganized. In 1963, trumpeter Johnny Morrison from Detroit obtained the golden microphone after it disappeared following Sarah Williams' death. According to Johnny's account, the microphone was sold to him at a music fair in Chicago. The seller acted as if he didn't know the microphone's history, but Johnny immediately recognized Billie Holiday's microphone. Johnny Morrison delivered the performance of his life the first night he played with the microphone. When his trumpet merged with the microphone, the resulting sound was as if Billie Holiday's spirit was accompanying his music. In a short time, Johnny became one of Detroit's most sought-after trumpeters. He began receiving offers to play with major orchestras. However, success had changed Johnny. His friends noticed that he was becoming increasingly introverted and obsessive. Only Billie Holiday records played in Johnny's house, and he constantly listened to Strange Fruit. In November 1964, Johnny fell from the 12th floor of an apartment building and died. Police ruled it suicide, but Johnny's relatives couldn't understand this situation at all, because Johnny was at the peak of his career and was a person full of zest for life. In 1966, the golden microphone appeared in the hands of young singer Diana Cross in Los Angeles. Diana knew the microphone's history but was a modern woman who didn't believe in superstitions. To her, these were just coincidences, and the microphone was truly a very high-quality device. Diana Cross's recordings with the microphone created a great impact in the jazz world of the late 1960s. The power and depth in her voice enchanted critics and music lovers. Diana quickly became one of the brightest jazz stars on the West Coast. Major companies lined up to make deals with her. However, in 1968, strange changes began to occur in Diana's life. Her friends heard her singing Billie Holiday songs alone in her house at midnight. Diana's neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, said the voice coming from Diana's house at night sounded as if it belonged to 2 women. It was as if Diana was duetting with someone. In September 1968, Diana Cross died in a car accident. Her car's brakes had suddenly burst, and she had rolled into a ravine. When police investigated the accident, they saw that Diana's car contained only Billie Holiday cassettes. The strangest detail was that there were witnesses who heard Diana singing Strange Fruit just before the accident. In 1970, the microphone returned to New York, this time reaching a group of musicians. The jazz group called the Blue Notes purchased the microphone for their lead vocalist Raymond Kelly to use. Raymond Kelly was a very talented singer but hadn't yet made his big breakthrough. Their first concert with the golden microphone made the Blue Notes famous overnight. When Raymond's voice merged with the microphone, the resulting music was as if Billie Holiday's spirit was directing the group. The group quickly became one of New York's most popular jazz groups. However, with success, strange changes began to occur in the group members. Especially Raymond Kelly was increasingly focusing on Billie Holiday. At concerts, he began singing only Lady Days songs. Other group members were uncomfortable with Raymond's behavior, but the microphone was so high quality that they continued using it. In March 1973, group members found Raymond Kelly dead in his home. The cause of death was drug overdose, but Raymond had never used drugs before. In the notebook found in his house, only "Strange Fruit Never Dies" was written. After Raymond's death, the Blue Notes disbanded and the golden microphone disappeared again. In 1976, young Asian-American pianist Lisa Chen purchased the golden microphone from a music store in San Francisco. Lisa Chen was a very talented musician, but it was very difficult for Asian musicians to be recognized in the jazz world at that time. She thought the microphone might bring her luck. At her first performance with the microphone, Lisa experienced the shock of her life. While singing at her piano, the microphone made her voice incredibly powerful. It was as if Billie Holiday's experience and emotional depth had been added to Lisa's young voice. In a short time, Lisa was recognized as one of the brightest new voices on the West Coast. However, Lisa Chen's rise was also short-lived. In 1978, Lisa became increasingly obsessed with Billie Holiday. She only played Lady Days songs, researched her life story, and tried to dress like her. Her friends noticed that Lisa's personality had completely changed. In November 1978, Lisa Chen drowned in her home bathroom. How she drowned was never understood because the bathtub was very shallow, and Lisa knew how to swim. The cassettes found in her house contained only Billie Holiday songs, and all ended with "Strange Fruit." In 1980, young trumpeter David Rodriguez from Miami purchased the golden microphone at an auction. David was making Latin jazz music and had big goals for his career. He knew the microphone's history but believed he was strong enough. At his first performance with the microphone, David Rodriguez surprised Miami's jazz scene. He had created a very original style by blending Latin rhythms with Billie Holiday classics. Music critics began characterizing David as one of the brightest voices of the new generation. However, David's success was also short-lived like the others. In 1982, David began behaving increasingly strangely. He abandoned Latin music and began making only Billie Holiday-style songs. His friends said he had lost his identity, acting as if he had become someone else. In October 1982, David Rodriguez died from gas poisoning in his home. When police investigated the accident, they learned that David had been constantly listening to Strange Fruit in his final days. Neighbors said the sound coming from David's house at night seemed to belong to two people. In 1987, Marcus Thompson, whom we mentioned at the beginning of our story, purchased the golden microphone from that antique store in New York. Marcus was a 26-year-old talented trumpeter with big dreams. He had heard rumors that the microphone was cursed but didn't believe them. Marcus's first concert with the microphone caused a sensation in the New York jazz scene. When his trumpet merged with the microphone, the resulting sound was as if Billie Holiday's spirit was accompanying him. Major record companies began competing to make deals with Marcus. Marcus thought his dreams were coming true. However, Marcus's story also ended tragically like the others. 3 months after purchasing the microphone, Marcus was found dead in his home. The cause of death was declared a heart attack, but Marcus was very young and healthy. In the final recordings found in his house, Marcus could be heard singing Strange Fruit, but strangest of all, the recording sounded as if two voices were duetting. After Marcus Thompson's death, serious research about the golden microphone began in the music world. Music historian Dr. Robert Sterling from Columbia University examined the deaths of 7 artists over 28 years and found surprising common points. The first common point was that all artists became obsessed with Billie Holiday before dying. The second common point was that they all obsessively sang the song Strange Fruit. The third common point was that before their deaths, neighbors or friends heard two voices coming from their homes. According to Dr. Sterling's theory, Billie Holiday had transferred very powerful emotional energy to the microphone during her final concert. This energy had accumulated in the microphone and began affecting the artists who used it. Of course, this wasn't a scientific explanation, but it couldn't be explained any other way. In 2015, thanks to technological developments, research about the golden microphone gained a new dimension. Sound technology expert Dr. Michael Roberts conducted a technical analysis of 1940s Neumann microphones. Roberts's findings were very interesting. The sound characteristics of G1947BH series microphones were indeed special and captured emotional frequencies in human vocals 40% better than normal microphones. According to Dr. Roberts's theory, the microphone's technical superiority created psychological addiction in the artists who used it. After artists delivered very good performances with this high-quality microphone, they couldn't experience the same satisfaction with other microphones. This situation led them into an obsessive relationship with the microphone. Roberts said the microphone isn't cursed, but perfection can turn into a curse. During the same period, psychology professor Dr. Elena Vasquez researched musicians' relationships with antique instruments. Vasquez's study showed that instruments known to belong to famous artists created powerful psychological effects on their new owners. Especially items belonging to artists with tragic pasts like Billie Holiday triggered melancholy and depression symptoms in users. Neurological research conducted in 2018 revealed even more surprising results. Brain imaging expert Dr. James Chen discovered that when musicians performed with valuable instruments, there were abnormal changes in their brain activity. Especially serious fluctuations were observed in dopamine and serotonin levels. These chemical changes created addiction-like symptoms in musicians. When the American government released some FBI files to the public in 2019, very interesting information about the golden microphone emerged. In the FBI's Billie Holiday file, there was a special note about the microphone. According to the file, federal agents had planned to monitor Lady Day's microphone and install a special listening device in 1958. Whether this plan was actually carried out wasn't clear, but the files showed that the microphone was marked as a special area of interest. FBI agents had heard the private conversations Billie made with her microphone and thought they might have intelligence value. The intimate thoughts Lady Day shared with her microphone could be used to control her. The most surprising information was that the microphone's theft from the Apollo Theater might have been planned by the FBI. The files mentioned secure relocation of target object. This phrase corresponded to the time after the microphone's theft. The FBI might have tried to break Billie's emotional bonds by stealing the microphone. However, the microphone's circulation among different artists for the next 28 years showed that the FBI plan hadn't worked. Or perhaps the FBI had lost track of the microphone. There were no records about the microphone in the files after 1960. In recent years, some physicists have tried to explain the microphone's mystery through quantum mechanics. According to theoretical physicist Dr. Sarah Goldman from MIT, intense emotional energy could leave traces in objects. According to Goldman's theory, the emotional energy Billie Holiday transferred to the microphone over 11 years might have created changes in the microphone's atomic structure. Although this theory couldn't be scientifically proven, some researchers thought quantum field theory could be applied to musical instruments. Especially, it was suggested that the emotional bond musicians formed with their instruments could create effects at the microscopic level. More radical theories claimed that the microphone had developed a kind of emotional memory. According to this theory, Billie Holiday's pain and passion had crystallized in the microphone's metal structure and continued to affect the artists who used it. Of course, these theories weren't taken seriously by the scientific community, but they attracted public interest. When the Smithsonian Museum prepared a comprehensive Billie Holiday retrospective in 2020, they formed a special team to trace the golden microphone. Museum experts contacted music collectors around the world. The goal was to determine the microphone's current location and possibly add it to the museum collection. Very interesting information emerged during this research. Several collectors in Europe had 1940s Neumann microphones, but none had the G1947BH serial number. A collector in Japan claimed to own a microphone that belonged to Billie Holiday, but experts determined it was fake. The most promising lead came from a secret collector living in Switzerland. This person didn't want to give their name but said they owned a very special Neumann microphone. However, this collector stated that the microphone would never be shown to anyone and would only remain in their private collection. Smithsonian experts tried to contact this person but were unsuccessful. In 2021, famous jazz singer Diana Krall told a very interesting experience in an interview. Krall said that in 2010, while working in a private recording studio in New York, she had used a very old Neumann microphone. The microphone was so high quality that Krall thought the recordings she made with it were the best of her career. However, Krall also said that during the time she worked with that microphone, she had very strange dreams. In her dreams, she constantly saw Billie Holiday and talked with her. Lady Day taught her singing techniques and shared the secrets of emotional depth. Kroll initially interpreted these dreams as coincidence, but when the recordings ended, the dreams also stopped. Similar experiences had been lived by other musicians. Young jazz pianist Robert Glasper said he experienced very powerful emotional outbursts during recordings he made with an antique microphone in 2015. Glasper said, "It was as if the microphone was bringing out the emotions inside me." These experiences showed how powerful the microphone's psychological effects could be. After Marcus Thompson's death, the golden microphone disappeared again. When police searched Marcus's house, they couldn't find the microphone. It was as if the microphone disappeared on its own after each death. In 1995, the last information about the microphone came. A music collector in New Orleans claimed to have a gold-plated Neumann microphone. However, everyone who wanted to see this microphone found that the collector suddenly changed his mind. The collector said the microphone was very special and not for sale. Today it's unknown where the microphone is. According to some rumors, it's in the hands of a private collector. According to others, it's still circulating in the music world. The legend of the golden microphone is still told among musicians, and most musicians prefer to stay away when they encounter such a microphone. Of course, it's not scientifically possible for the golden microphone to be cursed. However, psychology professors explain this situation differently. According to Dr. Jennifer Walsh from UCLA, the microphone's history and prestige psychologically affected artists. Artists who knew they were using Billie Holiday's microphone were under great pressure. This pressure forced them to perform better but also negatively affected their mental health. Lady Day's complex personality and tragic story emotionally affected the artists who used her microphone. Additionally, the microphone's technical quality was also very high. Artists delivered very good performances with this high-quality microphone. Then when they couldn't achieve the same quality with other microphones, they became disappointed. This situation led them into an obsessive relationship with the microphone. The common point of all victims was their obsession with the song Strange Fruit. This song was one of Billie Holiday's most powerful pieces and contained very deep emotional intensity. The song's lyrics described lynching incidents in the American South and was a very heavy subject. Music psychologists say Strange Fruit has a special effect on artists. The song's emotional intensity and connection to Billie Holiday deeply affected the artists who used her microphone. They weren't just singing, they were also feeling Billie's pain. This situation emotionally exhausted artists and led them into depression. Artists who obsessively sang Strange Fruit began to live Billie Holiday's tragic story in their own lives. The story of the golden microphone left deep marks on the music world. After the 1980s, a hesitancy toward antique microphones began among musicians, especially microphones said to belong to famous artists began to be viewed with suspicion. This situation also caused debates among music collectors. Some believed that famous artists' belongings contained special energy, while others thought these were just psychological effects. Jazz club owners were also affected by this situation. They began to approach musicians bringing their own microphones more carefully. Especially clubs that set rules about antique microphones increased. So what did Billie Holiday really whisper to the microphone that final night? Robert Williams, a former Apollo Theater employee, said he saw Lady Day talking to the microphone but couldn't hear what she said. According to some theories, Billie Holiday was apologizing to the microphone. She had suffered a lot throughout her career and shared this pain with the microphone. Perhaps her final words were asking the microphone to take this energy away. According to another theory, Billie Holiday was asking the microphone to remember her. Lady Day's greatest fear was being forgotten. She might have wanted to continue her bond with the microphone even after death. Is the story of Billie Holiday's golden microphone real, or just a legend? Were the deaths of 7 artists over 28 years coincidence, or truly the effect of a cursed microphone? Scientifically, a cursed microphone isn't possible. However, psychological effects can be very powerful. Artists who knew they were using Billie Holiday's microphone were under great pressure, and this situation affected them negatively. Perhaps the real curse was hidden in Billie Holiday's tragic story. Lady Day's pain and passion were so powerful that they could even affect those who touched her belongings. Artists who used her microphone weren't just using a device, they were also carrying Billie's emotional legacy. This story shows us that music isn't just about sounds. Music is also emotion, soul, and energy. Whether Billie Holiday's golden microphone is real or not, it will continue to live as one of music history's greatest legends.